Put the lights upon the tree and all the presents underneath. Light the fire, it's getting cold. Another year of will it snow. Mixing lager and champagne, something I'll never do again. Round the table, banter flows, praying no one rocks the boat. But I know this picture's not quite right. There's someone on your mind. First Christmas time without him by your side. I know he'll love these Christmas bells, 'cause they never say farewell. So we laugh, we shed a tear for those who can't be here. We're drinking sherry just because, confessing all our Christmas love. Watch Home Alone for the 1,000th time. It's the only movie that we all like. But I know this picture's not quite right. There's someone on my mind. First Christmas time without him by our side. I know he'll love these Christmas bells, 'cause they never say farewell. So we laugh, we shed a tear for those who can't be here. For those who can't be here. For those who can't be here. Sing out for them. For those who can't be here. Sing out for them. For those who can't be here. Sing out for them. For those who can't be here. Sing out for them. For those who can't be here.
So, taking a little creative liberty, I would introduce myself tonight as Death. And I'm going to share with you the following scenario. When someone passes from this life to the next, death appears to them and takes them into their eternity. When he takes them into their eternity, he talks to them and learns their life story. And then he encourages them to write a letter that will be read from the Christmas table from their empty chair. Tonight, you'll hear some of those letters. I believe you'll hear experiences that we can all relate to. So sit back and listen. Experience the words from those who have loved us as they speak to us from the empty chair. Now, I'll actually be reading 2 of these tonight, and we'll have the writers come and read the rest. Again, taking a little creative liberty. I'll begin by telling you the story of Martin. Martin's grandfather passed, and I carried him into the afterlife. Here's the letter that he wrote. Dear Martin, I remember the first time I met you in the hospital. You were just a lot of chubby with long, fiery red hair. By the time I got to the hospital, you were in the mobile crib next to your mother's bed. You lay there, wrapped up, except your arm had managed to escape. And as I picked you up and held you, that arm reached out, slapping back and forth like you were trying to get at my head. I knew then we were going to be pals. I won't ever forget the day we knew you were going to be fatherless. When he kicked over your crib and left you on the floor, I was indignant. Your grandmother locked up my guns, smart woman. The rage I felt inside over what it could have had me losing my stuff. That red hair and all the attitude with it runs in the family, you know. Instead, I took notice of you. I picked you up, just a chubby little red-headed boy with one arm tucked in his blanket, waving it back and forth like he was trying to get at my head. I knew then we needed to be more than pals. I knew I would have to make a deeper investment into your life, or you wouldn't have a fair chance. And I'm not sure I gave it to you. I remember the one time that you were about 2, your uncle and I decided we could play hot potato with you. We tossed you back and forth over the oak table, and it was all good until it wasn't. Do you still have that dent in the back of your head? I did better when we were fishing. Everything I knew about fishing, I tried to teach you. You loved you some grandpa time, and I was glad to give it. I wish I could say I hit a homer with every swing, but I know I didn't, Martin. I know that there were times when you needed me and I wasn't there. Then there were times you needed me and I couldn't be there. You know, I felt responsible. I let you down. Had I been there, would you have had all the struggles that you had? Would your life be as full of trauma and rage, mad at the world who had collectively let you down? You didn't see much after I met the chaplain at the hospice when your grandma died. I always thought that religious people were just using God as a crutch for their weakness and their conscience. It changed me when in a moment I saw your grandma was taken from this world to the next. I got to see for one split second what lay beyond the grave. He was bright and beautiful, and the room was full of peace. He touched your grandmother's forehead, and then he was gone. But the peace remained. I should have been at my worst, grieving the loss of my darling, my wife. I wasn't, though. I had seen evidence. Grandma wasn't just gone forever like dust in the wind. She was there, and I was here, but I could see her again. The next morning, the chaplain told me about hope in Jesus. He said, in this dark world, that Jesus is light. I don't have to let the rage win at the dying of her light. I had seen death, bright and beautiful, taking your grandmother to a better place. That chaplain then introduced me to Jesus, and I found peace with Jesus. I found peace with myself. I can finally sleep. Last night I lay in bed, your uncle sleeping in the chair next to me. You know, about a year now, my health has deteriorated, and I knew my time was short. And it happened exactly the way it did with Grandma. There was a flash of light. I saw death. He was warm and bright, and there was peace. As he carried me into the afterlife, he asked me if I wanted to write a letter to be read from my empty chair this year at the Christmas table. Well, Martin, this is it. I want to say this: don't stop being you. That little guy, so determined to slap at my head. You always made me laugh. But just one thing: the rage you feel, it can go. It can die. Let all of the broken expectations, the betrayal, and the traumas be turned over to Jesus in forgiveness, and you'll find peace.
Hi, everyone. I've disappointed too many times, too many people, over too many years. It's not that I wanted it to be addicted. It was supposed to be a good time. Then became something I used to compensate. Then it became my escape from life. I hated it. I hated myself. I hated every effort to get clean because I knew where it would lead. Failure. My mom, my dad, and my family losing trust in me yet again. I didn't know why I couldn't gather what I needed to win this fight. That was until I reconnected with the pastor. He didn't judge me or condemn me. He took me to the hospital. He gathered people to pray for me that I could have victory over addiction. I wish I could say it stuck that night, but it didn't. You don't get to open the doors to this and then just shut it forever. Addiction keeps a foot in the door. And when you're tired, lonely, hungry, or losing hope, it can rear its head, making all sorts of promises, but there is only one result. So I try to control this situation in my life. I thought I was doing well enough, but Jesus sent me people to help me understand that you only come to realize God's resources when you come to the end of your own. On August 6, 2023, I came to the end of my life. Jesus saved me. I gave him everything that kept me from returning to my habit. I felt his love wash over me, and I felt his grace in my life. I knew things had changed, and everything was going to be new. Except for that one thing I couldn't realize or release. It was one thing that came back with a vengeance in August. That one thing caused me to shoot up one last time. This time there was no paramedic and there was no Narcan. There was the familiar feeling of euphoria as I slipped into the darkness. I saw a great light. He said his name was Death. He would take me to the next place. Death told me I could dedicate a letter to read from the chair I would have filled this Christmas. I spoke tentatively, not knowing what to say, about where I would spend eternity. I had disappointed too many times. When I got to Heaven's Gate, I was asked, "What did you do with Jesus?" I replied, "I asked him to come into my heart and forgive me of all my sins." This response I will never forget. It's enough. Jesus walked through the gates, and he caught me by the hand. Words couldn't come out. I just wept, realizing I had disappointed him too. I let everyone down. Jesus raised my head and said, "You never held me up. It was never about your ability to begin with. You believed and received. My grace covers everything. Now come with me. I have a great place for you." And we walked in heaven together.
Your family was too quiet.
Your family was loud.
How is this letter going to be received? Let me give you all a little backstory. This guy and I met in high school, and soon we were inseparable. He was the band geek that I'd always wanted.
She was the butter on my potato, the whipped cream on my pumpkin pie.
Oh, that was terrible.
I know. I did it on purpose.
I'll quote my brother, "Stop it. I don't like it."
Well, here is more of the backstory. Marriage soon after high school. Her mom loved me. Her dad loved me. Her brothers loved me. I was so in.
Everyone said, "You two are going to make it. We expect great things from you, but don't forget to make us some beautiful grandbabies."
But at the center, we love Jesus. We each gave our lives to him, saying, "Use me as you want to." We made a promise to put our lives in his hands together. God's presence was all over our wedding.
It was a beautiful honeymoon in the mountains, but then the flight home was in a snowstorm.
I wasn't worried. I grew up in the snow.
I wasn't worried. I did too.
Maybe
we should have worried more. The skidding off the road, the tree.
Darkness, warm blood, the sound of your voice fading, and when it was gone.
Death. The rush of emotions, feeling ripped off. No future together. No babies. The end, it hit me like that first.
For me, it was guilt. I was tired. You had napped on the plane. It was my job to drive. You said you could do it if I wanted. No, it's my job to drive.
Death. I can remember being in the NICU, watching nurses cradle babies that were dying. He did that to us both, held us in his arms like his children.
Waited for the last heartbeat, lifted our souls from our bodies, and just bathed us in light.
Death told us that he wanted us to write a letter to be read at our family Christmas this year. There would be 2 empty chairs. He said to wait until one thing was done. When we arrived, we had an appointment with Jesus. He had some answers for all of this that he was going to share.
Like the frequent flyers who bypassed airport security, we jumped every line and were rushed into the throne room of God. Jesus called us to himself. Hey, you both, would you sit with me?
My children, I want to show you what happened as a direct result of what occurred after your accident. The devil thought he could snuff out your influence, but he had no idea how that would backfire.
Jesus said, Kayla, when your client found out you died in the wreck, Samantha, yes, that Samantha, was so heartbroken by it that she listened to the Holy Spirit for the first time. I met her in her bedroom as she was on her knees. She gave her life to me. Her mother saw the change and would surrender her addiction to meth. Everything changed. Samantha finally had a home.
He went on to tell me that my cousin had named her second child, Kayla. True to the name, she became a writer. Her books are typically mentioned in the New York Times bestseller list. Her bestseller, The Ant I Never Knew, is the story of a young woman rising above the moment to become an overcomer.
Jesus told me that my family took your loss hard. At your funeral, your dad referred to you as our shining star. He started a foundation in your name, and the funds raised are used to train apprentice electricians in low-income settings.
Tell them about your brother, the one who said he was Christian but wasn't. You couldn't believe where he is now. He met Kayla's uncle at the funeral and soon preached in the church. He is now a gifted evangelist and is responsible for hundreds of people knowing me.
It was then that he turned to us, put his hands on our shoulders, and looked deeply into our eyes. He said, well, things didn't turn out like you expected. They turned out for the good. I always honor Romans 8:28. In death, the door was flung wide open so that your lives could tell my story. You both left a legacy, and it was good.
So our letter, well, we thought you want to know. As for me, Mom and Dad, I got a job at Heaven's Nursery. I chose the ward where the unwanted babies from Earth transitioned into heaven. I get to hold them, give them a mother's touch that they had never had before. I got to name a few of them who had never had a mother to name them to begin with.
For me, Mom and Dad, some say heaven is a place with no problems, but that's not exactly true. Peter hired me to do maintenance on heaven's gates. It's causing some real anxiety when they get stuck. Maybe the jobs are not glamorous, but I see all the new people coming. You can't believe the joy that happens when the doors open and the families rush out. It's the most beautiful thing I have ever seen. But the saddest thing is when somebody comes and they are looking for a loved one and they find out that they aren't there. I know they say there are no tears in heaven, but the look of disappointment, it's the same every time.
Hello, family. Well, death's not what I thought it'd be. He's not who I thought he would be either. I thought death was cold and dark, but it's not. It's a blink of darkness followed by just this immersion into light, in the brightest light. The angel of death was also bright and warm and the complete opposite of what I thought he'd be. He picked me up from out of my body. We traveled to the afterlife. I stood outside the pearly gates, and they let me in. Oh, joy! Y'all know that's my saying, right? That's all I could think. Oh, joy! Soon, that was all I could say was, oh, joy. Well, before I get too far into my story, let me tell you that death wants me to write a letter to all of you to be read from my empty chair this Christmas season. He seemed to know that, well, you know that I'm a procrastinator. And he told me that if I didn't get this done today, he's telling Jesus, and that can't be good. So let me tell you what this place is like. I just thought I could settle into my mansion when I arrived, but I've just been so busy. There's so much to see. People kept coming up to me and redirecting my attention to various sites that make anything on earth just seem so unimpressive. Well, don't get me wrong. I enjoyed the traveling I experienced through my earthly journey. I went through all the United States and Canada. I saw wonders of beauty, but nothing like this. God outdid himself here. Just when you think you've seen the best God's made, he surprises you with even brighter lights, and the colors are so vivid. And then there's this body. Well, it was only an hour ago I met Jesus, and out of instinct I went to push my glasses up my nose, and lo and behold, there were no glasses. I love my new nose. Oh, and my hearing, it's perfect. I know you all got tired of yelling so you could hear me and I could hear you, but I got so tired of those comments. Turn up your hearing aid, Grandma. I came here just listening to that. So sound here is amazing, and the music, it's heavenly, and no one, not one, sings off key. That's been such a blessing, because some of you remember how I love to sing and how I love to harmonize. Jesus told me that when it's time, he'll let me see the memorial service that you all are having for me. And if you all do everything I ask, I hope to hear you sing, or someone sing, through it all. Through it all, I learned to trust in Jesus. And that song, Amazing Grace. But, you know, I really want you to sing that third verse that says, the Lord has promised good to me. His word my hope secures. He will my shield and portion be as long as life endures. Oh, that was my favorite verse of all. I want to thank you for remembering your father. Yes, I know that he's the one God chose for my earthly journey, and we spent over 60 years together, and it was joyous. Oh, joy. It was hard for me to say goodbye, especially knowing that his health was declining just like mine. And I guess we don't get to choose the day of our death. It's in the Lord's hands. A time and season for every purpose under heaven. I know, but time is short. Losing us both will be a lot of grief for you all, but maybe this will help. I saw his mom. His brother's here too, and they are working on a welcome home party that will shake heaven's gates. I wonder who's going to read this letter at the table. Whoever it is, please just emphasize that all the trials in earth, they're all faded. They've disappeared when you arrive, and yours will too. The things you thought were so important, the things are just there for learning. The people you wanted to impress, the degrees you achieved, the possessions you owned, they've all left. They were just temporary. Everything you had on earth was just borrowed for a season. But the one thing that is different is your eternal soul. The Bible says this in Mark chapter 8, if I can remember that correctly. You know, I just got here. But it says, what will it matter if you gain the whole world and lose your soul? I don't want any of you to lose your soul. As the old preacher would say, there's a heaven to gain and a hell to shun. And I know you've heard that before. So now's the time. Today's your day of salvation. My mom used to sing these lyrics to this chorus. Let it be said of us that the Lord was our passion. With kindness and gladness we bore every cross we were given. We fought the good fight. We finished the race through the power of the Lord who has risen. I'll see you soon, family. Not too soon, I hope. Grandma.
When I'm at my end, tears pouring down, and I can't see past what's in front of me now. When it's all too much for this heart to take, there's one name I call, one prayer that I pray. God help me now. Feels like there's no way out. But Jesus, you're faithful and able, and you've never once let me down. God help me now. No matter the pain my heart may feel, no wound cuts too deep for your love to heal. So when fear comes to find me and doubt starts to grow, I lift up my eyes, I know just where to go. God help me now. Feels like there's no way out. But Jesus, you're faithful and able, and you've never once let me down. God help me now. No one else has the power that's in your name. Nowhere else can I run to and be saved. God help me now. Feels like there's no way out. But Jesus, you're faithful and able, and you've never once let me down. Ooh, God help me now. God help me now.
This is a letter to my family. I don't know how you are going to get it. We don't get together very often. I can't even remember the last time. But this angel of death said I need to write it. He'll place it in front of my empty chair. What's one empty chair at a table full of empty chairs? He says it's a big deal. I'll give it a shot. Maybe this matters. But it would be the only thing that matters in the mess of my life. If I learned a lesson early in life, it's that I don't matter. Dad drank, and Mom tried to get attention everywhere else. Divorce. Dad became worse of a slobbering drunk. And my mom paraded men past my bedroom door every weekend. It was clear to me I didn't matter. It was clear that I needed to get out as soon as my little legs could carry me. And I did, right into the arms of the law. I was caught stealing. The cops took me home. I got beat for it. I thought to myself, wow, something I did finally mattered. The next day, it was the same old stuff. So I thought, I'm going to keep doing this. Soon, my crimes got worse and worse. The result, though, were always the same. I'd get brought home, she'd scream at me or hit me or send me to him. He would ignore me. Nothing I did could get their attention. But the speech was always the same. Why do you waste your life? They would say to me, and I should have screamed at them. If anything, I wasted my life because of the fabulous example you gave me. Mom kicked me out when I was 18. Dad's funeral was nothing to remember. At that point, I was dead inside. But I wanted to reach in the casket and unload a barrage of headshots. I stared in cold hate as they buried him, wondering why I even came. My life from that point, I could say, was all about me. Never married, but I had some girls in my life who wanted to. Made sure I never had kids. Might have had a few of them women angry, but there was no way I wanted to bring a kid into this world. I jumped from job to job. One guy might say I had potential, but my mouth would ruin that opportunity almost as fast as it would come. It was a cycle. I woke up, lived in a miserable world, maybe medicated myself to sleep at night with some booze or a little bit of green, and I'd start the whole thing over again. Until one day the cycle stopped. I went to bed and woke later that evening to pure darkness. Usually the neighbor's security light shined in my window, but even that wasn't there. There was darkness and this gray wisp hovering over me. He told me his name was Death, and he had come to take me to the afterlife. We talked along the way. I'd admit I felt a rise of anxiety that made me uncomfortable. He took me to what looked like an outdoor theater where I met a man named Jesus. He said to me, Charlie, I want to show you what you made of your life. On the screen was my life story. I think I watched for hours. The more I watched, the more I realized I had made a complete mess of my life. I know I told you all the bad things that happened, but there was times, interventions that one choice might have led me a different way, but I had ignored them. I didn't care to see who God had put in my path to help me find a better way. At the end of my life review, Jesus asked me, what did you do with the gift of life? I told him I wasted it. The second question came soon after. What did you do with Jesus' sacrifice? And I told Jesus I wasted it. I walked away from Jesus realizing my eternity would remind me forever that I wasted my life. If you get to hear this letter, don't waste yours.
I smile in the mirror, but it's all just a lie. I laugh with the crowd, but inside I wanna cry. They don't see the storm that's brewing in my chest. They can't hear the pain, can't feel the stress. I walk through the day with a mask on my face, but the weight on my shoulders is hard to erase. Every night I lie awake with thoughts in my head. Got tears on my pillow, the words left unsaid. The pain I hide, it's deep inside. I keep it locked, don't let it show outside. They see the smile, but not the scars. I'm breaking down behind these bars. The pain I hide, it cuts so deep. I cry alone when the world's asleep. I hold it in, but it's killing me slow. Nobody knows, nobody knows. I tell myself stay strong, keep moving on, but the shadows of the past keep pulling me down. Every fake grin feels like a heavy chain, dragging me deeper into silent pain. I don't want pity, don't want their eyes, so I keep it buried, keep living in disguise. The weight of the world, it's hard to carry alone, but I'd rather be silent and let it be known. The pain I hide is deep inside. I'll keep it locked, don't let it show outside. They see the smile, but not the scars. I'm breaking down behind these bars. The pain I hide, it cuts so deep. I cry alone when the world's asleep. I hold it in, but it's killing me slow. Nobody knows, nobody knows. Sometimes I scream, but no one hears my voice. Drowning in silence like I have no choice. I've mastered the art of pretending I'm fine, but each day it's harder to walk that line. I wish I could open up, let someone in, but the fear of being judged keeps it all within. So I'll keep my secrets, keep wearing this mask, while the pain I hide becomes a heavier task. The pain I hide is deep inside. I keep it locked, don't let it show outside. They see the smile, but not the scars. I'm in these bars. The pain I hide, it cuts so deep. I cry alone when the world's asleep. I hold it in, but it's killing me slow. Nobody knows, nobody knows. And when the lights go out and the world fades away, I sit with my demons, let them have their say. The weight on my heart is crushing my soul, but I can't let them see that I'm losing control. Behind the smile, there's a boy who cries, but I'll keep pretending till the day I die. The pain I hide, it's deep inside. I keep it locked, don't let it show outside. They see the smile, but not the scars. I'm breaking down behind these bars. The pain I hide, it cuts so deep. I cry alone when the world's asleep. I hold it in, but it's killing me slow. Nobody knows, nobody knows. Nobody knows the pain I hide. I keep it buried deep inside. Behind the laughter, behind the lies, I carry the hurt and nobody tries. The pain I hide, it's mine to keep, and I hold it in till I'm buried deep.
I get to read our final monologue tonight. Take me out of the monitor, please. I'm a dad of a son with a disability. And it has been probably one of the greatest life-shaping experiences that I ever could have had. I write these monologues as a way of just trying to communicate a lot of the deep and raw, honest emotion that flows from death. Many of you in this room have experienced grief. You know that it's not a progressively upward journey. It's a step forward, 2 steps back. A step and a half forward, 3 steps back, 5 steps forward, 4 steps back, and eventually you move more forward than you do back. But don't think for a minute that the wound that you experience goes away. It heals, but there's always a scar. And so as I try to write these, I try to think about people's real life stories. And I always just borrow just a little bit. Sometimes it's things I've learned as a pastor. Nothing that's ever, stuff people don't want me to say. But I wondered several years back, what would it be like for my son Dylan? That's you, yes. What would it be like for Dylan to go to heaven? And I wrote this from his perspective. Realize that if you've ever talked to Dylan, maybe he doesn't speak the way that you speak. I tried to capture that perspective. Yes, you're still alive on earth. We're good. But I tried to capture that perspective, and I want to do this to directly contrast the hopelessness that Charlie just displayed for us. because you don't have to have that hopelessness. Hi, Mom. Hi, Daddy, Kayla, Jordan, and Claude the cat. I go to heaven. I like it. A white man picked me up and flew me. I'm scared. He talked. I'm okay. I see the moon, stars, big ones, little ones, colored, light, bigger. Where's Mom? What are we doing? Death said, you'll see. It's amazing. Everything is shiny. I saw people from church. I saw Arlene. I saw Todd Crozier. He said hi to me. I got to see Grandpa Cobb again. He hugged me. I wanted to walk with him, but he said, no, stay here. Something amazing is about to happen. I went up. Shiny man asked me, where does Jesus live? I said, in the heaven and in my heart. And then I saw Jesus, the Son of God. I said, what are you doing here, Jesus? He said, eyeballs. He took my head, and when my eyes met his, it got different. I couldn't help it. I yelled, Jesus, and in a second, I was free. For the first time in my life, everything worked like it should. There was no more autism. There was no more disability. There was no more feeling like I was a prisoner, unable to communicate outside of my own head. All of a sudden, everything made sense. Then Jesus talked to me. He said, Dylan, you've been faithful in little. Here you will be given much. Enter into the joy of your Lord. Family, I love you and I miss you. But know that I'm better here. I know there'll be an empty chair where I used to sit at Christmas. Set my place with my yellow cup. Understand, though, I'm better. And I want you to know it. I've seen Jesus. I'm okay. I'm free. And I'm waiting for you. So come visit. But don't come too early. Because I'm still singing 4. Yes, I know that's how I used to say it. But I'm singing those songs with the angels now. And when you come up here, just for old times, we'll sit down and watch Larry Boy and the Rumor Weed together. Love, Dylan.
Don't be mad if I cry. It just hurts so bad sometimes. 'Cause every day it's sinking in, and I have to say goodbye all over again. You know, I bet it feels good to have the weight of this world off your shoulders. And now I'm dreaming of the day when I'm finally there with you. Save a place for me. Save a place for me. I'll be there soon. I'll be there soon. Save a place for me. Save some grace for me. I'll be there soon. I'll be there soon. La-da-da, la-da-da, la-da-da-da-da-da. I have asked the questions why, but I guess the answer's for another time. So instead I pray with every tear
And so this concludes our letters. As you heard, many reference the chair that they would not fill this year. Each one shared the best and worst with this hope in mind. Don't just exist, but live. Do the things that make you happy with the people who make you happy, because your story is still being written. Death has ushered many people into the afterlife and a discovered joy in the hearts of people who understand this truth, as we see in John 3:17. For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but that the world through him would be saved. You see, salvation is not simply about going to heaven. Salvation is God's helping us do everything we need to do in this world, including grieving. Our Grief Share ministry tells us we grieve big because we've loved big. Here's the truth. The world has pain. The world can be very dark, but you don't have to face it alone. Hebrews 13:5 says, God has said, I will never leave you or forsake you. You are my helper, and I need not be afraid. As I conclude this part of the message, I want you to take this to heart. God loves you, and he values you deeply. He's committed to your healing, your rest, and your recovery, even in your grief. God has a plan. Before our next reader comes up and we conclude our service,